3 weeks or so ago, we took a break. 3 minutes ago, we got on this Zoom.
Hmm.
3 seconds ago, we have started Hard Knock Life. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Keith.
Hi. My bathroom is making a noise. I'm Dominic Ma. It's Hard Knock Life. I one thing about that opening scroll I really appreciated the use of the old school Euro style fonts. Font nerds may appreciate that font is associated with like sci-fi tech things of a certain era and made me feel at home.
Yeah,
So
no, I actually really enjoyed the opening crawl, mainly because
we're talking about the
this.
Superman movie, by the way.
Yes, well, no, we probably should have started with that. The
Three
when he
minutes ago,
announced
we remembered to intro the topic, right?
when he announced Superman Legacy, like however many years ago, he used an image of All Star Superman,
Mm,
and he was very upfront, James Gunn, about the influence of All Star Superman on this movie. And I don't love that book, honestly. Like a lot of
mm.
people talk about All Star Superman as one of the best super. It's fine. It's not one of my
It's
favorites.
one of them.
It's a good one. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like I don't hate it. There are Superman stories I hate, and at least it's not one of them. But the most indelible thing for me about All Star Superman is like the opening page
Mm.
where it's essentially Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely doing the entire Superman origin in like 4 panels on one page.
I'm listening. I'm adjusting my seating. Please go ahead.
And it's kind of like what James Gunn did was the inverse of that because, in a comic book it's all visual and all you need is 4 images and like 4 word balloons to get
Mm.
your point across. And what he did with the movie is in like 4 sentences do away with the origin and just drop us in media res.
Yeah. No, you're
And
right.
I think better than Star Wars does, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, sort of like when the Civil War they finally figured out to align the Spider-Man origin. That happened here, right? And
Right.
very on purpose. He didn't want to show that origin story again. But it's interesting you bring up All-Star Superman because um, one thing they did in that comic was they graphically showed you in 2 pages the origin
Right.
story, which they neglected to do in the movie. Do we
Yeah,
notice?
right, right.
They could have graphically showed you
There's no montage. Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
10 seconds, reminding you, oh, planet blew up,
Yeah.
spaceship hurtling towards Earth, and that was a very effective beginning, I think, in the comic of
Right. Yeah, my favorite thing.
compressed.
That's the one thing that
Yeah,
stands out to me more than anything about All-Star
yeah,
Superman.
we'll get back to it when we talk about the trailer effects, but compressed storytelling done well.
Yeah.
Now, and us, we can also say Grant Morrison is a writer in comics. His stuff is particularly weird. It's
Yeah.
particularly hard to convey that vibe in a movie.
Dense too. Yeah.
Yeah, in a movie format, much like Alan Moore is. Like his thing doesn't translate exactly. So anyway, so those are the thoughts I thought bouncing off of the
Yeah. No, I
All-Star
mean, and
Superman
it
reference.
I think what I mean why it reminded me of that. Yeah, visually it doesn't because it's just against like snow landscapes,
Yeah.
right? There's no like montage underneath the text. So it does play more like Star Wars in that it's not a crawl, but it's like here's some text to read at the beginning to get you caught up in where we are in the story. But what I like about it more than Star Wars is it's at least more elegantly written than
Yes.
a Star Wars crawl. And
Yeah.
he uses this kind of repetition of like 3 centuries ago, 3 decades ago, 3 years ago,
Yeah.
three,
Magic
and then it
number.
ends with 3 minutes ago. Superman loses his first battle, and that explains that whole opening sequence we've seen like a million times in the trailers and in the sneak peeks
Yeah.
on YouTube for the last year and a half or whatever.
Yeah. It was cool. I mean, I had mixed feelings about this film and just saw it yesterday, and I have a lot of open questions. I
Well, let's
mean,
get into it. I mean, we are going to, if we haven't already, spoil everything about the movie.
yeah, spoilers.
So yeah, already forewarned, spoiler alert. And we'll give our thoughts about the film and what we think it portends for the future and maybe how it stacks up against other interpretations.
Mm.
Before we get into it, like, getting into like the depths of the film itself, I don't think you and I have, I mean, I know you generally I have a sense of your Superman, worldview, but I don't know exactly if you're like you count Superman as one of like
I don't like
your
Superman a
go-to
lot.
characters. Yeah.
I don't like Superman a lot. You can't avoid him
Right.
being a comics fan, so I think he's all right. He's not my favorite. On the DC side, it would be Batgirl or Green Lantern.
Sure.
Um,
Not the
I
one that's in this movie though.
Not the one that's in this movie. There's so many Green Lanterns to choose from. That's the thing. You can keep defecting from your favorite Green Lantern, but that's a whole other story for later
Yeah.
down in the Gunverse. And I do get the impression from that you have strong feelings about Superman. In fact, you made a top five list of moments. I was trying to go over those moments and see if I had equivalent feelings.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I'm one of those guys. Superman is just okay.
And then, like in the comics, there's a Superman. In the animated, there's a Superman. He's been in several incarnations in film and television. What's your history with all those different incarnations of Superman? Like, were you fans of like the
Oh,
old Reeve
oh
movies?
yeah,
Did
I've
you
seen
did you watch
everything.
Lois and Clark or Smallville?
I have not watched the old George Reeves series
Like ever? Not even when you
religiously.
were a
No,
kid?
I've watched snippets of it.
Sure.
But Christopher Reeve I grew up with,
Right.
and I thought those movies were. I was a kid. I thought they were slow. They had
Even
gr
as a kid.
Yeah, they had grandeur that I didn't quite appreciate. I
Yeah.
was fully into Star Wars, which had a slightly higher tempo as a movie, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and Superman, yeah, like. Let's say this as a comics fan forming identity, I really, really wanted to like them. And I ended up sort of liking them, and I didn't like love uh the comic movie experience until like Batman '89 or something like that.
Right. I mean, you and I are of similar vintage, and that's pretty much the same
Right.
origin story cinematically. Like, I mean, as you can see, if you're watching this, there is a giant Michael Keaton Batman poster to my right. So
Yeah.
that is still the Batman is still the the top. But I'm very chalk when it comes to my favorite superheroes because like my are Batman and Superman. Like
Sure. Sure.
I'm not punk rock when it comes to naming
No,
my
yeah.
favorite superheroes.
And they tried to make a movie to serve you, and look what happened.
So I will say, yeah, I was, I love the first Christopher Reeve movie. I don't really love Superman 2 like a lot of like fanboys do. Like a lot of people
Mm,
put Superman 2 above. I don't really I did like Superman 3
Superman 3 is excellent.
when I was a kid. Like the one thing about Superman 3 is that the she's not Brainiac, but like that lady who gets turned into like a computer
Oh yeah, she
robot
turns into a
was
Borg
terrifying
assassin. So scary.
when
Good
I was a kid.
villain. Yeah.
Yeah. But basically like Bizarro Brainiac, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That
And
was
and of
great.
course the refighting himself. I didn't appreciate the Richard Pryor stuff until much later in life.
When you
But
revisit it, he's doing a really funny troll of like our
oh
whole
yeah,
society.
well, back on my DC Multicast podcast, my friend Adam and I rewatched Superman 3 and was like, "Wow, this movie is awesome. Why do people give it such a bad rap?"
They didn't know what computers could do yet. How they'd
And
change us.
yeah, exactly. And I think I've long stated on this podcast and others, I loved Smallville
Yeah. Yeah.
for its entire run. So I've
Yeah.
got like several bars that this movie had to clear, and
Sure.
I think it does. I will say before we get any further, it's not my favorite Superman movie, but it is up there. It's still flawed. I think every Superman movie that's come out has flaws,
Yeah.
and this movie's not unique. But I do think, and I'll also say I'm not a huge James Gunn fan, honestly.
Sure.
I don't love the Guardians movies, and I'm not sure like his sensibilities are the same as mine. But
Mm.
I will say that I was pleasantly surprised in how well this movie works,
Okay.
despite a couple things that I didn't think worked. But we'll get
Well,
into it.
as someone who thinks about the Superverse a little bit harder than me, I mean, what what would you say is the identity of this movie so far, as opposed to the Donner films had classic cinematic grandeur. The Snyder films had what they had, which
Hmm.
we can isolate as slow motion violence.
Yeah,
They had an identity. What
sure, a visual identity for
Yeah,
sure.
and a little bit of like a concept story a vibe
Yeah,
identity,
well,
sort of.
Zack Snyder's Ayn
Yeah.
Randism definitely peeks
Were
through.
you able to discern an intentional identity in this movie?
I think what James Gunn is going for, particularly in this, and perhaps like his approach to the universe building that I've grown weary of over the last several years, is that the identity of this movie is bringing the kind of weirdness of the comics and the cartoons to live
Mm,
action, because
mm,
that's what we've never had. We've
hmm.
always, like, the Donner had the cinematic grandeur, but if you've ever seen any of the behind the scenes stuff from the Donner films, the word that Richard Donner uses constantly over and over, verisimilitude, right? You
Sure.
will believe a man can fly.
Sure.
The Snyder camp, even though it does get fairly like fantastical towards the end of Justice League, if you remember, started out very Christopher Nolan produced, and Christopher Nolan's whole raison d'etre with superhero movies is grounded in the real world,
Right,
right?
right, right, right.
Man of Steel, the trailers for Man of Steel, which I still contend are still my favorite Superman movie, are the trailers for Man
Sure.
of Steel, not the movie itself,
Yeah.
but the teasers and the trailer, because they're like, what if Terrence Malick did Superman,
Yeah.
right? That's how those trailers sold the movie. The movie itself wasn't that, but
Yeah.
that's how the trailer sold the movie. So Superman in the real world, very much.
Okay.
And I think the Gunverse is, what if Grant Morrison's comics were live action?
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
that's what I got from this, which
No,
I
that
wasn't necessarily expecting. I mean, you expect it when you see the trailers, but like just how much it embraces the weirdness of the world. Like, what I kind of dug the most is how the people of Metropolis, sure, they're like scared and when the giant kaiju shows up, but they're also kind of used to it,
yeah, yeah.
which was, I
Yeah.
thought, kind of nice, kind of cool.
Yeah. No, that's interesting you bring that up because if we think about the history of it, definitely those two major universes, Donner and Snyder, they were making a conscious effort to be grounded, right? Because
Yeah,
the project is make a superhero palatable to normal audiences, right? Not just
yeah,
nerds. So the action of that is have to ground it somehow, right? So it'd be interesting if we get to this place where we're not concerned about that anymore, and we
yeah,
have this sort of and I thought that was like very well illustrated in the sort of everydayness of it, like that scene where, he's they're inside the apartment and outside the window the Justice Gang is just fighting a thing, and
yeah.
that happens in Metropolis every day. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like
and it's
that.
normal.
Yeah, that was like a comic book shared universe kind of thing. Oh yeah, Justice Gang is just doing this thing over here. It involves an alien starfish.
Right. Well, and then like
They'll
the fact that
handle it.
Superman himself is so nonchalant about it. He's like, "Oh, they got it. It's just an interdimensional imp."
Yeah,
Like,
right,
and
right.
and then but the beauty of that scene is that, and I know we're kind of
Besides
jumping
the
around.
nice lighting effect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that it all, even though there's like this gag in the background, because that's what it is. It's this like comedy gag,
Yeah,
because like fucking Green Lantern's got a giant baseball bat he's hitting
yeah,
the the starfish with, right?
yeah.
It's that as humorous as and campy as that is, it actually doesn't take away from the emotion of the scene between Lois and Clark in that moment.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's very well done that
Which,
way.
that's what's amazing, because you would
Yeah,
just, and my audience was kind of giggling, but
yeah,
like you're still enraptured by Lois and Clark, like realizing what they mean to each other.
yeah. Sure. So is it fair to say you were charmed by this
I
Lois
I
and
was
Clark dynamic?
I
Dynamic?
was
Kent,
like, I was gonna
Kent
say
Lane,
the
Klein,
the the Clois,
Lent, Close.
the
Okay.
Clois, the
Okay.
Clois. Is yeah, I mean, Tom Welling and Erica Durant are still my
Mm-hmm.
OTP, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Rachel Brosnahan and David Corn Sweat, their chemistry leaps off the screen,
Yeah, it's very yeah. It
and
works.
very much so. And every time they're not in a scene together, is the I was gonna say, like, before we get into like what I thought didn't work, I think every time they're not sharing a scene together is when the movie's at its worst. It's at its
Yeah.
best when the best scene. I wish they didn't release it, honestly. Is the interview?
Yeah. Yeah. That interview scene has a lot going on. And yeah, no, I didn't quite think about it that way, but you're absolutely right that the most sort of potent chemistry is going on between Lois and Clark. And in another world, that we would have made a whole movie about that. Uh, but then there's right, okay.
So we're
We
gonna jump all. There's no like structure to this
right,
conversation.
we're
Just if
definitely
you're wondering.
going to come back to that part, but just offshoot for a minute. The so one of Gunn's other special tricks is diving into the deep catalog of C tier characters that normal
Yeah.
people haven't heard of. So, like, as a fan, did you want to see Metamorpho, Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific? I'm not sure, like, was the fan service itch scratched there, or but that's another question I have.
Yeah, no, here's the thing. Like one of the fears going into the movie, was is it going to be overstuffed? Like
Mm-hmm.
it is a Superman. David
Mm-hmm.
James Gunn said in previous interviews, the inclusion of the Justice League or the Justice Gang characters was, kind of showing Clark in that world because you have Clark on the farm, you have Clark in the Daily Planet, but then Superman has coworkers too. Like he, especially in a world like this DCU, where it's not like Man of Steel. He's the only superhero in the universe. He interacts with other metahumans. So there was that kind of like reasoning or rationale, but I was still hesitant.
Mm-hmm.
But I gotta say that aside from Lois and Clark and Lex, like the Metropolis Trinity shine in this movie for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But the non Superman characters that I like the most were definitely Mr. Terrific, and I thought Metamorpho was handled better than I anticipated he would be.
Yeah. Yeah, I was mainly like Metamorpho was a hard one to do. Like, so I was
Yeah, and it
interested.
works
I was interested in that. Yeah.
because I love Metamorpho as like as a comic character, but he's
Yeah.
one of those characters that was like it's not. He's either going to be a joke on screen or
Yeah.
usually he's going to not look anything like the comics because they have to find some grounded reason to make him, you know, able to access all the elements. So he'll just be brown
Purple.
and gray.
Yeah, and he's purple and orange at the same time, and that's weird. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
But like if this was, it's like when they did Josh Trank's Fantastic Four and the Thing was just like
mm,
like a giant rock monster.
mm.
Like it loses the whimsy. And
Hmm.
Metamorpho, as tragic a character as he is still a very whimsical character
Yeah.
in that he can form, anything he wants. And
Yeah.
Anthony Carrigan's great, but no, let's just dedicate some time to Eddie Gathegi as Mr. Terrific
Yeah.
because he is the standout
Yeah.
character outside of the Superman core.
Yeah. And Mr. Terrific is a relatively new character in the DC pantheon, and I honestly don't know him that well. Um, but I like his performance, and
Well, the Michael Holt
I like Mike's
version
interview
is
with him,
is
honestly.
new-ish because
Yeah.
Mr. Terrific is like a gold. He's like one of those legacy Justice Society characters,
Okay.
where there was a Mr. Terrific in the '40s,
There
just
was.
like there
Yeah.
was a Green Lantern and Jay Garrick Flash.
Yeah.
But then the Michael Holt version of Mr. Terrific, he's been around for probably I would at least 20, 30 years, I think.
Anything 20 years is newish.
Yeah, it's post
Okay,
crisis.
damn it. Post.
Post crisis.
Okay, yeah.
Um,
Um, I didn't mean, but his branding is not as strong as Green Lantern is.
oh,
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, yeah.
that's what I
Or
was saying. But
Hawkgirl, right.
not or Hawko, not that that even matters. But yeah, Mr. Terrific, cool gear, man. His gear is cool.
Third
Uh,
smartest person in the DC universe,
like
apparently.
if we're keeping track, like is Lex above or below
Yeah,
him?
it's like Lex, Bruce, and then Michael Holt are like the three smartest people
Great.
in the DC
Yeah,
universe.
and the costume works. And thank God he's there to kind of be Lois's buddy on this long, complicated, side trip they get to while the other Justice King guys are slacking. Um,
And he has a
before,
standout fight scene. Like every James Gunn movie has that like long tracking whether it's the hallway fight in Guardians 3 or the Yondu thing with the arrows.
yeah,
He's got that whole like set to like a rock soundtrack. I think this one's
yeah. I wonder
no,
if
Iggy Pop is at the end, right? The Iggy
Yeah,
Pop
Iggy
song.
Pop was at the end. I wonder if James Gunn has a lot of drones in his personal life. I think yeah, yeah, if it's Yondu's arrow or those little T spheres, he does like that little flying thing around that shoots at
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, but that's neither here nor there. I don't know. Okay, yeah, he did a good job. Guy Gardner, like if you know Guy Gardner from the comics, like you aren't like surprised by what
Yeah.
Philin did. Maybe for those who don't know, it's sort of a fun take on like, oh, he's kind of a jerk superhero. I get
Yeah.
it.
Which is the whole Guy Gardner vibe.
Right, right. And I will say mm, I was rooting for there to be more Hawk Girl.
Yeah, she doesn't do a lot.
Hawk Girl was just like sort of there. At one point, she's reading a newspaper. Is that
Yeah.
even realistic? Does that age hot girl in this iteration read a newspaper? I don't know, but that's again a minor detail. Okay, so where are we? What?
So yeah,
I still have questions, but go on.
no, no, no. I think again the kind of like C-list superheroes that get introduced, I think for the most part work.
Hmm,
They didn't take away from anything. I didn't feel like they were a distraction. The way they're utilized works because like again, like oftentimes when you overstuff superheroes in a movie, especially a movie that's supposed to be centered on the title character. I don't know. Let's example Captain America: Civil War. If someone told you that
sure.
movie's first two words is Captain America, you'd be like, "It is."
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't seem like a Captain America movie, right? It's clearly Avengers 2.5
Yeah.
or whatever. This doesn't feel like that. Like when the Justice League show up, it doesn't feel like, oh, this is just a Justice League movie. It's like, no, it's
Mm-hmm.
how does Superman react to them? So like when they show up against the kaiju, it's not okay, let's team up and be it's like, come on, guys, let's do this a better way. Like
Yeah.
Superman is reacting to how the Justice League is acting.
Yeah.
So like that's what I appreciated, like how it was written, that it never takes away. Even like the Crypto, I thought Crypto, as much as I love dogs and thought Crypto was cute in the first trailer, when all the marketing became Crypto, it was almost concerning that like, oh, this movie would be like the second lead is the dog.
Mm.
And even then, Crypto I feel like works in the context of the film, and he's not in it like as much as they make you think he's in it.
Yeah. But yeah, the crypto thing is a flex though, definitely.
Well, and
And
what
also
Crypto portends later in the movie and future DC movies we'll talk about in a second
yeah.
is what I thought really really well done too.
Yeah. I don't yeah. No, the perspective the debate between Superman and the Justice Gang while they're fighting the kaiju is very illustrative and works well to set up the conflict of his point of view versus the other metahumans that already exist. Um, I still my whole big bomb to drop of whatever, as far as it matters, of my opinion about this movie is relates to Superman's actual his actual thought process in the interview scene. And I don't know when you want to get to that.
Let's talk about it because the interview scene is again my favorite part of the film.
Yeah.
It works. Okay, a little secret. I just got out of the movie about 2 hours ago.
Well, have
My
you seen it
second view.
twice?
It was my second
Nice.
view.
Nice. Like a true fan. Went right back to
uh,
the
so
source.
so it's still pretty fresh. But please, uh, tell me what is your concern with Clark in that?
I like the scene. I like the way it's set up. From the trailer, I had this basic feeling he's that guy who is just like, fuck the rules. I'm gonna do it my way. It sounds nice when you're being like, no, people were gonna die. I stopped a war. But Lois, adroitly, as a journalist, must point out is no, you're just being that guy who goes, fuck the rules. I'm gonna do it my way. And as you know, because I think James Gunn has a particularly strong voice to speak to, let's say, young white dudes. I wonder how this lands. I wonder how this will be interpreted. And I do think Clark's sort of posture in a lot of the movie is, as opposed to the early ones, he's a young guy figuring shit out, right? As opposed to the earlier ones, Reed was very like an authority figure. He's already like, he's there. He's figured it out. Do you know what I mean? So this is both a
Yeah, yeah,
change for Clark's perspective, which is probably more like what's going on in Smallville, honestly, right? Than
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
than the Christopher Reeve movies. Um,
And then the inverse is the Henry Cavill was like, I am your Messiah,
right,
like
right. I figured
from
out.
from jump.
I figured out past this, and I'm way above you. So I feel like Superman in that moment in the interview scene is like the guy who's going, man, if I could only make the world a better place, I'll just go do this right now, like a boss. What do you think about that?
No, I think that's a very insightful reading because the other thing that's kind of hard to miss, and I'm curious what your thought process was with the whole Boravia
Oh yeah,
Charanpur allegory.
yeah.
um I mean, allegory is even like, is it an allegory? Because like it's very very much let's just get it out of the way. Israel Palestine, like it
Yeah,
very
it's an
much
allegory
feels
because they
like
changed the names, which they
right,
had to, and that's
right.
fine.
And DC can get away with like just making shit up when
Yeah,
it comes to
yeah.
countries, right?
Oh, to be fair, it is a weird attempt to morph Ukraine, Russia, Ukraine, and Israel,
Into
Palestine
Israel,
into
Gaza, yeah,
one conflict, which
right.
you can debate whether that's a good idea or not. But anyway,
Well, but I
yeah,
feel like the Gaza stuff fits more neatly, and again, none of this. We're no one is saying James Gunn like sat because he wrote this movie like 3 years ago.
yeah,
Not that Palestine and Israel is only since like the last 2 years. It just feels like that on the internet. But Israel
yeah,
Palestine has been a thing for centuries. But we're just talking about like you know to your point. It the way I look at that is very much like there's a lot of this kind of like white saviorism, even in the whole um, leftists online talking
yeah,
about Gaza, right?
yeah.
Like there's a lot of that. So I think that's offset also by the Lex Luthor allegory as well, because he's the other
Hmm.
side of the white guy
Yes, he's another version of that. Yeah.
sticking his nose into places. And he again, this is more. It was a more topical movie than I anticipated because Lex Luthor, what he represents are like the Gamer Gators, like his whole crew.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
playing Ultraman like a video game,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
but they're also like cultishly following him the way like Elon's bros do, or the MAGAs follow Donald Trump. You're
yeah.
like everything he
Or
does, he's
or
surrounded by
Apple.
yes
Yeah,
men.
yeah.
So like, so yeah, I think both Lex and Clark are I mean, which makes sense. They're the arch rivals of
Hmm.
this. They both have that. Uh, I think, but that's the Superman problem. Like Superman is you know the white.
He's a
I think
unilateral weapon. He
right,
is.
except for when he was played by right wing blowhard Dean Cain. He's always
Oh,
been played by a white guy,
oh, right, that one.
and
Yeah,
just the one non-white guy to play him is a right wing blowhard. So like
yeah.
you
Best laid plans. Wow.
know.
Uh,
So yeah, so Superman can't avoid the white saviorism, but I think it was more pronounced when you have like this, Israel Gaza
yeah,
allegory on top of it.
yeah.
But that was hard to like separate because even the evil president guy, he was like a Netanyahu like stand-in. It was like not even subtle.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think for better for worse, he set it up that there could be multiple readings of this
Oh yeah,
fictional setup. And again, back to you can kind of argue that's a thing that comic books does well, and we can debate whether it works well in the sort of mass market movie thing.
yeah,
I thought, I mean, I thought it was a good premise for a conflict. I didn't like petty. I just Boravia is a stupid word to say 20 times in the movie. Like I realized it was actually from the Silver Age of comics. It was one of the made up countries they had, but
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Um, and
Well, but
so I was asking you sort of what do you where do you stand on the unilateral dude action
yeah, I
sort
mean,
of?
I think that's just so baked in the cake when it comes to Superman.
Yeah,
Like because that's what he does. He goes in and you know, I mean, that's the thing that was like even watching the trailers, like, oh, they're doing that again because that was a plot point in Batman versus Superman, right? Superman injects
yeah,
himself into this Middle East
yeah,
conflict, and
yeah,
that's why he's at the U.S. Capitol when it blows up because
yeah,
they brought him in to testify or whatever. So
yeah.
like that's such a common Superman trope that like I didn't bump up against it as much. Where I thought you were going was what the chatter that I've seen the most online in terms of like people who had complaints about like the way it messes with the lore
Hmm.
is the kind of like the Jor-El twist
Hmm.
where the Kryptonians kind of send him this, like the common story is that Jor-El and Lara were these like noble people on Krypton who knew the planet was going to explode and no one believed them, so they sent Kal-El off to survive the dying planet, benevolently sending him to Earth where he can inspire people to follow him. And that's the story that Clark believes his entire
Hmm.
life, and that's why he becomes Superman. And it turns out that the second half of that message was also we want you to conquer them. Now, I've seen a lot of people really upset about that online.
Right.
uh,
And you've seen the
because
movie twice at this
and
point,
I
so
have
you
seen the movie twice.
say what's really going on.
Well, no,
I'm curious of that.
there's no evidence that it's not true, right? Because like like that's all set up for the ending where my real parents are my adoptive parents, right? Like that's
Mm,
kind of like
okay.
the punchline to that whole setup is at the end of the movie. But it's also, to me, maybe the reason I didn't bump up against it as much as some people have is that this is not the first time this trope has been used in Superman either. Because in the Birthright comics,
Mm,
that's the whole plot point that Lex does is he convinces the world that Superman is evil and they
mm,
turn on him.
mm,
Even in Smallville, like when you first encounter the voice of Jor-El on Smallville, he's a little bit more vague about conquering Earth, but
mm.
it's pretty. Every time Jor-El involves himself in Clark's life, it's always really bad. So like,
Huh.
evil
Okay.
Jor-El has never, like, I don't bump up against the whole quote unquote evil Jor-El as much as some folks have,
Mm,
but the political allegory, I guess, the contemporary allegory is that what at least some of the chatter I've seen online is that one of the stories that they've been promoting for Superman, James Gunn and Cass have been saying how this is an immigrant story.
hmm.
Kal-El, Superman, Clark Kent is this undocumented alien who arrives on
Yeah.
Earth and is unfairly treated by the billionaire.
Yeah.
But the chatter I've seen is that like by making the people he comes from evil, it kind of upsets that whole like good immigrant story.
Yeah, that's interesting. We'll have two major things to say about that, but really quick, wait, how do you literally understand that plot point? I've only seen it once. They, I thought that was uh, Lex just bad translating it. So,
Well, I think that's how you'll get out of it. I think eventually, if James Gunn wants to write himself out of like the Jor-El was evil story, it was either Lex doctored it somehow, the engineer fucked with it somehow when she downloaded the
yeah,
story.
because right,
But
okay,
but upon second viewing, they do make it. They like even Mr. Terrific says, nope, it's definitely authentic.
right, which
And
is like, okay, so he's smart, so he must know. Okay,
yeah, right, 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 right.
let me give my two mini rants that uh, get in relate to that. Okay. One thing, yes, the immigrant story is well taken. People disputing it. They're focusing on the wrong immigrant story. It's a Jewish immigrant story
Mhm.
from the 30s or the 40s. And, I'm going to say Jewish a lot here, and I mean it in the descriptive way, not in that way like people are like, Jewish. No, I just mean Jewish. Superman is Jewish coded. Superman is Jewish coded. Most of the superheroes were invented by Jewish people. Most of the ones. I don't think Batman, but like most of the ones that are in the
I think
pantheon.
Bob
If
Kane was Jewish.
yeah, if you factor in Stan Lee and all the DC guys, most superheroes were created by Jewish people, and it's not a mystery why. Why did we get this idea that we needed a super being to resist a terrible threat, an unbeatable threat? Who would come up with that?
Right,
Jews
and
escaping the
all the
Holocaust.
superheroes were born in the 30s. Let's not
Yeah,
forget that
yeah.
either.
So let's get a little history in here. And so Superman is Jewish coded in many ways. The black hair, so it's kind of curly, and they bring it out even a little bit in the way his parents appear in this movie. Um, and of course, people can have their uninformed feelings about that, but that's just how it is. Um, and that's a very poignant story that makes Superman who he is. Uh,
So but that also makes it more complicated where you say, oh, actually Jor-El and Lara were evil. If
uh,
if you
but
if you
that's
extend
my
that,
second
right,
point.
because that's the trope of the dual loyalties and
Okay, that's my second point because I don't buy that part at all. The one
yeah,
part
yeah.
I did like about the movie, I was surprised to find myself liking about this Superman movie was the part where Lex gets everyone to believe Superman is bad, like in a
Yeah.
minute from a
Yeah.
deep faked, badly translated video. I don't know, maybe even 8 years I wouldn't even have believed that. But now I'm just like, oh yeah, he would just
Well,
everyone
because he
would.
also has those monkeys trolling on the internet constantly,
Right. So the
which was James.
unfortunate.
I feel like James Gunn's kind of commentary on like why he got canceled a few years
Well,
ago.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And James Gunn is extremely online. I mean, he's an
Yeah,
extremely
he
online
is very much
personality. We can accept
hashtag
that.
super shit.
Right, right. He thinks about these things, and they're important things to think about. But yeah, so I was like, they just deep faked his precious video of his mom? How's that going to go over? Oh, the whole world believes it in 2 minutes. Go figure. Huh. And
Yeah,
I wish I remember the time when I didn't believe that could happen, but now obviously it happens all the
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
So we get that. So we get where Superman can go into super bad just based on one guy deep faking a video, which is how I interpret it. I don't fucking I
Yeah, I
I
mean,
immediately knew it was a deep fake. That's my modern reaction.
well, I think too. Like my thing with like again, I didn't bump up against it when I first saw the movie. Then I read all this chatter online where people were like deeply upset that it ruins core Superman lore because Jor-El was supposed to be benevolent, and you know, I think it's like finding out God is not real. You know what I mean? For a lot of people.
Well, but yeah, again, that's stupid because you can't know.
Yeah.
They're arguing this on the basis of this is true or that is true. It's a video that Lex Luthor messed
But
with.
to your point,
It has
that's how
no
gullible people are now,
right.
right?
Exactly.
So
So
you're
that's
just falling,
what
and
the
the thing
hell?
is, like, and you know, I alluded to it earlier. Like, I appreciate this movie doesn't it kind of like builds it world builds without like kind of obviously hitting you over the head with it. Like, there's not an after credits sequence that makes you
Hmm.
that you have to sit through the credits to just to know what the next movie is. But they do
That's
set
funny.
up the next
Yeah.
movie, and I think they do it in a more subtle way
Okay.
when Kara shows up at the end.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if you've read Woman of Tomorrow, have you?
Haven't.
It's excellent.
Does she go to party on other planets because she can get drunk?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, at least it's the premise of a comic.
Because she's traumatized.
Okay.
Like, and I think they didn't want to like introduce like, oh, Kara has all this trauma and that's why she's drinking
Hmm.
at the end of this
Yeah,
movie.
it would be a bit much.
Right?
Yeah.
But the whole premise of Woman of Tomorrow is that Kara is dealing with her PTSD of having witnessed the destruction of Krypton twice
Right, right.
because at her origin story, at least the one that, you know, there's so many Supergirl origin stories. The
There
one
are
they go
several.
with
Yeah.
in Woman of Tomorrow is Argo City survives the initial destruction of Krypton.
Okay.
And so they're floating in space, but they're slowly dying of kryptonite poisoning
Man.
as they're floating through space. So Kara, as everyone knows, Kara was a teenager, Clark was a
Hmm.
baby, and it's just ironic that when she lands on Earth, she's still a teenager and Clark's a full-grown adult. That's like
Hmm.
the classic
Hmm.
Supergirl story, even though she was supposed to be older than him. But they explain that in Supergirl is that she, you know, again, she survived that initial explosion, floats around space for a while, sees everyone dying from kryptonite poison, and then eventually Argo is destroyed. I think there's like a meteor shower or something,
Hmm.
and then that's when Zor-El sends her away.
Okay. Hmm.
But so she's kind of like reliving that trauma, and then she's planet hopping to red sun planets so she can drink with crypto,
Hmm.
and she encounters this little girl named Ruthie, whose father was murdered by like a warlord. And so the rest of the story is like Lone Wolf and Cub, True Grit in space,
Hmm.
where Kara and this little girl are going on this vengeance quest. The movie's going to add Lobo to that story somehow
Great.
with Jason Momoa. But I think,
The bad boy she meets in a bar, perhaps.
yeah. And you know, spoilers for Woman of Tomorrow.
Go.
Crypto gets gravely injured in the first issue.
Oh.
I think he survives. I think Crypto's alive by the end. But you don't like
There.
for at least 8 issues. You're like, they fucking killed Crypto.
What? You're a Superman fan. There isn't a Reign of the Alternate Cryptos storyline. Like four dogs different come
No, it
back,
explains
and
how streaky like Super Cat
one of
shows
them
up.
is right, right, exactly. I'm glad you brought that up because I haven't read that series, and
I
uh,
suggest you read it ASAP because it's
I,
amazing.
at first blush, thought that moment with Supergirl at the end was stupid. But there, I'm being the non-comics fan because I didn't
Yeah,
read
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But that's interesting. Okay, that's a story. Um,
Because
I
it plays
I
she
thought it
play
was
yeah,
I
she
thought it was
plays as
stupid.
she's like a sorority girl at the end.
Okay, yeah, yeah, and that's so I read that in a I was like I bumped up against that because I really like Supergirl, but that's a story. That's we'll see how that story plays out. Okay, set my mind a little bit at ease. Um, of all the weird things that happened in the movie, of all the like leaps of like audience buy-in, I thought that like Olsenmacher was the weirdest thing. Like I didn't get that Jimmy Olsen Tessmacher thing at all, and I didn't even really buy it. It seemed like
But they make him like a
contrived for plot, but go on.
he's like a ladies' man. Like there's they set that up
He
with like
is? I
because like they
okay.
set up these like two interns. Like, oh my God, Jimmy looked at me.
Right. Okay. So that guy is a ladies' man.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
somehow
That's a little
the
that's
nerd power fantasy.
that's a little white guy nerd fantasy talking and being realized. Good for him. Okay, but do you know what? Okay, no
So I mean,
we were
so let
fine
me
with
ask
that.
you.
That was just weird.
So I'm coming off as like someone who's just glazing this movie up and down,
Yeah.
and I but there are things I didn't like about the movie. Shall we get into
Sure.
those?
Sure.
You mentioned you didn't at first like the Supergirl cameo. Is there
Yeah.
anything else that you bumped up against before I dive into the sequence that I didn't like the most?
Well, that was part of a whole mishmash of things. I'll say my my general thing was the the representation problem, the perspective of the head white guy in charge. And, I don't know if this is going to get me in trouble. You can edit this as you like. And again, this is not specifically like criticizing James Gunn. I think he's the best at wrestling with this problem of the dudes we have. But let's say it's a systemic or a, institutional problem. The head white guy's in charge and makes a good faith effort at diversity and representation, which and multiculturalism. And those are still good words. Those are not bad words. They've just got badly framed. Diversity, equity, inclusion. We should always strive for it. It's the goal. But the people end up being the non-white people are commented on rather than giving a chance to give their own comment. Sorry, that was a long-winded way of saying Molly of Molly's falafel. Did he get kind of fridged so that we could see that Lex was bad? Could he have had more comment to say for himself? We spend a whole lot of time worrying about whether Metamorpho's baby is gonna die. We've got emotional investment in that. Do we have emotional investment in Molly and is he allowed to say something, or is he just being quote unquote fridged, which we usually apply to women? So that's one thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's not wrong. I mean, he definitely gets fridged because Lex shoots him in the face.
Yeah.
um, but like I didn't bump up on it. I have read. I believe Mike talks about that in his review as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, the thing is like, had that not been brown guy, and it was just another random Metropolis citizen off the street, would you still have bumped up against it? Because is it because he's a brown person?
Definitely because he's a
Yeah, yeah,
brown person. And he's there to be read as representative of our Middle East conflict for whatever, in that non-specific way that we do comic book character
yeah.
strains to read for things. And yeah, they go way out of their way to have zero body count for all Metropolis citizens and all dogs. That's the whole
And
thesis of
squirrels.
and squirrels. That's the whole thesis of this movie is Superman is going super out of his way so no one dies. Oh, except this one person dies. Go figure. Well, at least we know Lex is bad. But we knew Lex is bad because he's fucking racist. And anyway, go on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I
But
mean,
this is not
he
a
is. Yeah.
resolvable problem. I just want to bring it up because it's
Right,
an
right.
issue.
No, I mean, that is I won't say it's an inescapable problem, but I think like to me, what maybe because I was so caught up in like, especially the first time, like holy shit, they are really like anti Netanyahu government.
Mm,
That that scene read to me in the moment as because you remember the Gerkos guy, the Netanyahu stand-in, is also there
mm.
laughing
Yeah,
as the brown guy gets shot in the face.
yeah, he's just a freaking jerk.
And no, but again, it's like whoa, that's like, I mean, that's kind of what a lot of people on Twitter do anyway, like showing you the monster that is
Mm,
Israel and the victims that are Palestinians and what are you going to do about it, you know what I
mm.
mean? So that's kind of how that scene read to me in the
Yeah.
moment because I did not going in think that it would be so easily to graft the Gaza conflict onto
Yeah.
the Jaranpur Baravia stuff
Well, yeah,
as it ended up
and
being.
I'm gonna say it plays out like a meme going around the internet more than a real world situation.
Well,
That's
yeah.
what effect I got from it.
Well, and
But
honestly, but that's kind of
and that's
maybe now I'm going to get in trouble. That's kind of how it feels sometimes when you have the online activists.
right, right. So
It is more performative than solutions oriented,
it's
unfortunately.
well, it's very chicken or the egg. Is James Gunn reporting on that phenomenon of being extremely online, or is he part of it? He's both. Anyway,
I mean, yeah, I
but
mean,
yeah,
that
yeah,
that wing of the internet loves this movie for that, which is
sure,
I'm happy for you because
sure. The
um so but it's interesting because my least favorite part of the
yeah,
movie
please, please.
is related because it's all the stuff in the Pocket universe.
Oh my God, that part was so weird. Go, yeah, please
I
go
mean, it's
on.
weird, and I'm glad to like embrace the weird, but it was a little too much. You know how my thing with superhero movies is when it gets a little overly CGI slop.
Yeah,
That was the most CGI slop in the
it had
whole.
literal slop going through the bottom of every frame. And the rules were very unclear, like what's going on.
Yeah,
I
the
think
pixelated river of whatever anti-protons.
anti-protons, yeah, which I still buy more than Olsenmacher, but that's another that doesn't even matter.
Or
But
even like the whole Baby Joey stuff, like it added this weightlessness. Like
yes,
whenever there's a fake baby in anything,
right.
whether it's American Sniper or like a sitcom, like fake babies take me out.
Yeah. And you're supposed to care about them really a
You're
lot.
supposed to care. Like when you said you care about baby, like no, you don't, because Baby Joey
I,
is
he was
being tossed around. Like any
yeah, like
infant
a
in that
football.
situation would be dead.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
Even alien
That
mutant
was
babies.
that was not realistic. I meant he was, he was the Infinity Gauntlet. He's the magic football that if we get out of here, we win, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I'm with you that that Pocket Universe was so out of like what well, I
It was out
didn't.
of pocket.
It was out of pocket. It was off the hook. It was why does Mr. Terrific and Lois have to stand at that little ledge for 20,000 minutes just observing? I did not understand anything. There's some offhand thing of like Metamorpho going, I can't carry the baby and be elemental at the time. Oh, now I can. Oh no, I couldn't.
Right.
I was being the nerd who's just like the rules of this are just like
Or I mean,
what?
again, embrace the weird. But the
Okay.
way that Superman survived the black hole was
Oh
by
my God.
blowing it.
He blew away from a black hole.
I mean, he's got
That
super
really
breath,
is his
sure,
best
but like,
superpower.
okay.
His super breath is so strong it can push against a non-point. As we the singular, or I don't know if singular, I don't have physics. I don't know if a black
I
hole
don't
is
know.
a
You
point
know
in
what's on the
space
other
or
side of the
not.
black hole, right?
What?
Bizarro world.
Right. Okay. So the whole point. Okay. Fine. Yes. It's, what is the super breath pushing against
I
when
no that
he's
I don't know. That I have no idea.
ejecting himself away from the
But
black
he's like
hole?
because a lot of people again. I should get offline. I am too online. A lot of the Snyder Bros that you were referencing earlier were like, "See, this Superman kills too," because like, what's the main point of contention of Man of Steel when he snaps Zod's neck, right?
Hmm. Oh yes.
And so at the end of this movie, the main bad guy turns out Ultraman is a clone of Superman.
Sure.
Like that was obvious from like the first trailer, whatever.
Yeah.
And when Clark finally defeats him, he lets him get sucked into a black hole.
Yeah.
He kind of actually hits him into the black. He doesn't just like it's not like
Yeah.
I don't have to kill you, but I don't have to save you.
Yeah.
It's like he literally throws him into the black hole.
Yeah.
But I don't think he killed him. I think clone Superman falls into the black hole. Like I actually thought if there was a end credit sequence to set up something, it would have been like Ultraman waking up on this square planet because all those
Yeah.
particles were cubes that were
Yeah.
floating into the black hole.
Totally. No, that yeah, if you've read like a Superman comic, that's totally what happens.
Yeah,
Guys, get do the reading, please. Read the
and his face
assignment.
would be all like distorted, like
Yeah.
Bizarro.
No, I thought that was a very good setup for that thing, for that. Yeah. But again,
But
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that whole ridiculous pocket universe. All right, before we talk about the Snyder relationship, have you said your piece on the pocket universe
yeah.
problem?
That was the main thing. Well, that and as much as I said I liked the opening crawl or the like text, I did feel that there was more telling than showing.
Sure.
and that was a little annoying. Like Superman's speech at the end, honestly, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't love it.
Mm-hmm.
When he finally gets the come up, I love, I don't know what to do. Like in theory,
Hmm.
I like it. Like if it was written on a page, if it was a
Yeah.
comic, it would
Right.
have worked.
It was very comic booky. Right.
But
It was weird to
seeing,
happen. Yeah. At that moment.
yeah, like for Superman to say that to someone did not work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was a little unfortunate because I think David was awesome as Superman throughout.
Yeah.
Like not a misstep. And I don't blame that on him. I think he did the best he could with the dialogue, but I just thought that did not.
Yeah.
Like there's there's the ultimate, like to me the best villain hero conversation is the Dark Knight Joker and Batman. But
Uh,
Batman doesn't say anything. It's all Joker, right? It's all Joker like
are you talking
you
about
complete me in the
are
Dark
you
Knight.
talking about the Killing Joke or Dark Knight?
In the Dark Knight movie. I'm talking about
Dark Knight. Oh,
cinematically.
okay. Okay.
Cinematically, right?
Sure.
It's
Sure.
like
Sure.
you've changed things,
Right.
you
Right.
know, and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff, right? And then Batman's just like, "You're a crook," and
Yeah.
that's all he says.
Yeah.
I mean, and
Yeah.
then devolves, and he's like, "Where are they?"
Yeah.
But but that's I think what they were trying to do with like the whole Lex speechifies, and then Superman speechifies, and it just didn't work.
Yeah. You know what would have worked better, James Gunn, if you're listening, is if Superman had suddenly developed his super cross-posting power and he just posted it to all his accounts, which is really the payoff we'd been looking for the whole movie, was
Yeah.
for Superman to finally post. And he does it instantly, and the world goes nuts. And he's one of those guys that has 15 million followers in one post because he's that famous. And it's that. That's his
Well,
one post.
Superman doesn't do the social media, as he said.
Right, but that would be the payoff of the movie. If you introduce that problem, why doesn't he do it by the end? Anyway, I'm just saying it would have worked a little better than him just spouting it out in the middle of a in the middle of a fight.
Yeah.
I totally get that. Yeah, you wanted to like that moment. I wanted to like that moment a lot more.
Right.
It just was oddly placed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm suggesting an alternative. Okay, there's something I do want to talk about in the history aspect because I was rewatching like The Man of Steel and stuff like that this week. You talk a lot about the trailer and what a wonderful effect it has with the editing and the music. My question is, as far as Man of Steel, were we kind of with the whole hopeful vibe until up to the snapping Zod's neck part? Because that's the whole thing. The discourse around this movie is that the hopeful vibe is back, right? When I was reviewing it, Man of Steel had that up to a point. Do you know what I'm saying? And then it started being Snap Zod's
The
next, and
disaster porn at the end. Yeah.
then it started being Batman versus Superman, and they're just fucking cold sociopathic personalities.
Right.
But Man of Steel had that to a point, or did it? That's my
No,
question.
I mean, I used to argue like the first three quarters of that movie I really love
Sure. Yeah.
because again, it's a different, it's a very, I mean, it was actually Zack Snyder at his most
Um,
like reined in
yeah.
because he's not. It's almost like the third act of Man of Steel is when self-indulgent Zack Snyder shows up,
Maybe
and
that's
then
what happened. Yeah.
that Batman versus Superman and Snyder cut become just full on masturbatory Snyder stuff, right?
Yeah.
But the first three quarters of Man of Steel is Christopher Nolan like, hey, let's not have 10 minutes of slow motion in this scene. Let's
Yeah.
let the actors kind of act a little bit. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Who
Like
cares how many bullet casings there are?
exactly, right?
But go on. Yeah.
But so because yeah, I mean there are aspects of the Man of Steel that I absolutely adore. I think the Hans Zimmer score is still amazing. And I appreciate I've said this before, like I didn't mind the John Williams remix in this
Mm.
movie
Mm-hmm.
because at least it was a remix. Like
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't because it didn't work in to me, I don't feel like Superman it hurt Superman Returns
Mm-hmm.
and it hurts the Joss Whedon Snyder Justice League
Mm-hmm.
because like when all of a sudden the Superman march comes on and it's clearly the 78 music, but it's not Christopher Reeve.
Hmm.
It's doesn't make sense. Like when Michael
Mm.
Keaton's Batman theme plays over Ben Affleck, it doesn't make sense in my head.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm also, but I'm weird that way. I'm also the person that says Kevin Conroy didn't have to voice every version of Batman. Like,
Okay.
anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm treading
Fair
on
enough.
dangerous waters here.
Fair enough.
You know, so yeah, there are aspects of Man of Steel that I absolutely. I do think it's still bleaker than it needs to be as a
Yeah.
Superman movie. You
It
know,
definitely ends up that way.
but even in the beginning, like the Jonathan Kent stuff in Man of Steel, I don't love.
Okay, yeah, that part is wonky, and the extended bit of Civil War on Krypton is a little wonky.
Yeah,
I was just asking in a way because people are talking so much about the hopeful part, and
yeah. Mhm.
for good reason. We should. It's nice that Superman is trying to be like morally consistent. Um,
I just love that Superman's a goofball and
and
like he's corny, like
he
naturally
is a
corny.
goofball. Yes, he is naturally corny. That's a
Like
nice
the
way to
his
put it.
first word in the movie is golly.
Yeah.
Come on.
And,
Like
right. That's cool. But again, my nerd is going, why didn't you say Great Scott? He says golly and he says good gosh at 2 points. It's like that was a perfect time to Easter egg one of his weirder sayings, like Great Caesar's ghost, or no,
well
Perry says that, right?
that's Perry.
But Superman does say Great Scott, doesn't he? Or am I mixing him up with someone else?
I don't
He
know.
has some weird saying. Anyway,
I like so
it's
like
not that important. It's not
my
important
favorite
at all.
close moment to
Yeah.
go back to that
Yeah.
is at the very end when they're floating and they're making out. And earlier in the film, Superman says he says I love you to Lois, and it kind of
Yeah.
throws her off. And then she returns it at the very end. But my favorite part is his reaction. He
Hmm.
has this big dumb grin and he goes, and
He
it was like my heart melted. I was
he
like, of course Clark would react to Lois saying I love you with
mm,
a
he is kind of a lovable,
and
dopey guy
what
there.
did you think of the Kents? Because I've heard mixed reactions about Ma and Pa in this movie.
I thought they were all right. I don't know the whole lore. Mom has a deeper Southern accent than she's ever
They
had.
were a little bit deeper south than Kansas. I did feel like it was
Yeah, I
like
don't think
geographically might have
that's a
been,
Kansas accent she had. Uh, but that's fine.
but it's
That's
a rural. They're definitely rural red America. That's for sure.
they are totally rural. We can't have the super dog killing their cows. Um,
But the reason I bring that up is going
yeah,
back to Man of Steel. Like Jonathan Kent telling Clark, maybe you should have let people die. Always rubbed me wrong through
yeah, that
Man of
was
Steel.
terrible. That's terrible.
And then the whole stupid tornado scene.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I
Because I love the one thing that I'm so grateful for James Gunn is that I've argued this as long as there have been Superman movies. You don't need to kill Pa Kent. Like that was a precedent. I think the set with Richard Donner. I'm not sure if the comics has always been Ma and Pa are dead, or at least Pa's dead.
oh yeah, that's true. No, that was I think this Donner did that.
Because I think Richard Donner was wanted to prove the one thing Superman can't do is
Yeah,
save his dad.
yeah, that was a
But
very
but I feel like that's unnecessary because that's what the Krypton story is. Like he
right. Yeah,
can't save his parents because they're already dead. But Ma and Pa are people he can always rely on. So
right.
like Lois and Clark had them alive when he was Superman, and since then they've always had only one parent alive. Because
Mm,
even in
that's
Smallville
right.
they killed Jonathan at some point in the series.
Yeah.
And I always thought I always wanted to see a mom pa alive while Superman was doing his thing, and I was appreciative that they kept that.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. Donner did it so well, people thought that was necessary.
Right,
And
like
Donner
oh, it's
did
like
it
I have to kill them in Crime Alley. I have to
right.
give Pa Kent a heart
It's
attack.
not actually part of the lore.
Right,
It's movie lore. And let's be real, Donner did that because he couldn't have a gigantic Civil War scene on Krypton or any of that shit to like make the Krypton thing seem more. He invented a very simple human way to make that meaningful lesson, and not everyone is good at it. Wait, remind me, in Smallville, did the Duke boy dies or
yeah.
he doesn't?
The what's his name?
Is John Schneider or
John Schneider. Yeah, he also has a heart attack.
Okay.
But
So
his
right.
heart attack was brought up. It's too complicated. It was brought on
Okay.
because he actually imbued the powers of a Kryptonian to stop
Oh
Clark from being
God.
broke.
Okay.
It's fine. It's not. We don't
Smallville
got
was
to get into
also
Smallville lore.
it was also off the hook in many ways. But okay, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
true.
yeah, you're right. So that's good. So yes, so parents don't have to die, or
Yeah, you
Earth
don't have to
parents
live the
do not have to die. I
right.
thought, I thought they were fine. They seem like a nice couple, a nice old couple. Regional accents notwithstanding, and
Yeah, we just have to. Well,
I wouldn't know
it's
to
funny
say.
because James Gunn is from Missouri, so who knows? Maybe in rural Kansas they talk like that.
Or she could have moved from
Yeah,
somewhere. I mean, that's not the most impossible thing.
yeah,
Um, and it was, and it's nice because it gets that rural city kind of dynamic, which, the idea that Superman's like fighting for everybody
yeah.
across state lines, across demographics. Yeah.
So before we wrap, there was a quick Peacemaker cameo.
Hmm.
That's the next thing in the DCU. Peacemaker,
You,
I think, is in August.
hmm.
You liked the first season, right? Ish.
Half-ish.
Yeah.
Everything I said about my questions about the head white guy in charge and James Gunn phenomenon very much in
Also applies.
Peacemaker. Very much applies to Peacemaker, so I like it half.
Yeah.
By the way, the newly rechristened HBO Max, right? I know this is
Yes.
another
Oh,
one of
good. Shall we?
your
Shall we
favorite
get into
rants.
that?
They missed another chance to call it WHBO Max, but
Yeah, yeah. I don't
anyway.
even know Warner Brothers is like the driving force for anything anymore either. Like no, there was no Warner Brothers title card on Superman.
Oh, really? Oh, there wasn't?
Yeah,
Okay.
there was no water tower, no play it again, Sam. The
Hmm.
what's the song?
Da 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 da
Uh,
da da
yeah,
da
yeah.
da
As
da.
time goes by, there was none of
Yeah.
that at the beginning. It was, I think, first
Oh,
DC movie with no
yeah.
Warner Brothers opening.
Interesting. Yeah. Huh.
Just
Um,
opened with the DC Studios.
but anyway, Peacemaker is gonna coming back to HBO Max.
Coming back
Uh,
to HBO Max, I think Superman might show up now. I
oh,
have a strong feeling
totally.
Torrance Sweat will show up on this season at
Totally.
some point.
Why not? Because it'll be a really funny scene of Peacemaker, the guy with basically no powers and a helmet, and Superman. They'll probably fight, and it'll be hilarious. Um,
Well, there were pocket universes in Peacemaker, so that's probably
oh, were there?
some sort of yeah.
I
His KKK dad had a quantum unfolding chamber in his apartment or
I
whatever.
fucking glossed over that. Yeah. Okay.
And the
Yeah.
trailer for Peacemaker season two has an alternate universe Peacemaker show up, so they're
Oh,
probably going to be
great.
dealing with the multiverse at some point, which they kind of have to since Peacemaker season one was a whole different universe. Because if you recall,
Right.
the original Snyderverse Justice League showed up at the end, so
Right. Oh, that'll keep the continuity nerds happy. So, are you saying Peacemaker is the anchor being of the reconstituted DC universe?
potentially him and Amanda Waller are the only two holdovers from.
Hmm. I'm saying, I don't know. It's an open question.
Uh,
Um,
but are so yeah. I mean, how do you foresee the future of the DC universe under the purview of Mr. Gunn? More white guys doing white guy things.
well, he's a, he's the best at wrestling with this question. At least he knows it's a question.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm trying to think of an example so it's not so abstract. I mean, you know kind of what I'm getting at, right?
I mean, the question I like because my thing is as long as he shows other sides of the coin, I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what we were saying that like yes, Superman is a white guy who's doing. I mean, but that's never a problem, right? It's never a problem to have multi-dimensional white people in stories.
That's the thing. Okay. A thing James Gunn is really good at, he's really good at drawing characters with these little cinematic strokes. It's a talented filmmaker. Example, when they're evacuating Metropolis, do they need to focus on that old lady's fishbowl for 20 seconds? They don't, but it does something. It makes you part of her world. Again, the non-white people are part of that world too, and we would like to see there are stories being drawn in that way. And I say it with this passive voice because that's how it works. You're a filmmaker, you get to make choices. Who has a voice? How are these stories come across? Um, and when and it's just this ongoing thing when you're with a head white guy in charge, you just may not know what it's like to be the little guy posture. And you can draw us and you may be like, uh Molly's he's a falafel stand or he's a shawarma stand. What's the difference? What's offensive? That's not the question. Is he a real guy? That's what I'm saying. And just because I'm getting worked up because the goals of diversity, equity, and inclusion and representation and multiculturalism are what we're going for, not what we're fighting against.
So you didn't think it was a
Um,
nice touch that Clark wrote the true hero of Metropolis was Malik Ali, and he had the front page story of the Daily Planet
I
after
I was
Superman
looking
saved
for
the
something.
world?
It is a nice touch. It's a reparative thing. It can be
And it's
thrown.
something Superman would do, right? Like it's
It's something Superman would do. And again, I'm not trying to be weird and saying, "Oh no, we needed a half-hour backstory on Molly," but I'm trying to point to the fact that the way you got us into the old lady with the fishbowl evacuating Metropolis, you can do that with people who aren't white people. Uh,
so I mean, he was the guy who helped Clark helped Superman at the beginning.
Yeah, and that was fine. It was kind of a trope. It was weird. I mean, why did he need to help Superman out of a crater? Like Superman's power levels are weird at this point. Like he doesn't actually need a guy to help him up, does he? I'm saying like those thoughts, those parts felt less thought out than other parts. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, but okay, if that scene works for
No,
you,
no. I mean,
yes, it does.
I'm not trying to argue.
Okay.
I'm just. Again,
Yeah.
maybe I should no longer be the head of Nerds of Color because I did not notice at
No, it's
all
just
that it was a
depends.
problem until you brought it up
It
just now.
depends how you gauge these things. It was a little weird. Like I just thought it was weird that he that on several levels. Does Superman need a guy to help him up?
Well, no, but I
And
mean,
you
that
and
gave me Raimi Spider-Man vibes of like
okay,
the
yeah.
people of Metropolis are again, so much of this movie seemed to be a rejection of the Snyderverse, where like there was a distance between like Superman's a god and the people worship him or are at his mercy, right? Like I know there's this I don't remember if it's Man of Steel or Batman versus Superman, but it's one of the things I hate the most, honestly, because there's a flood, which is very relevant to like our times today. And the
Hmm.
people like drew a giant S on their roof and they're like, "Help me, Superman."
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Superman just floating above them and her
Yeah.
hand reaches out. Again, gorgeous image,
Yeah.
cinematic,
Great
beautiful
image.
image.
Yeah.
But then when you take 2 seconds and think about Superman just like floating, looking at her, like what?
Hmm.
It's a
Hmm.
little, he's cold. Because there's a
Hmm.
similar shot in this movie
Hmm.
when he prevents a building from falling on a woman in a car
Hmm.
and she drives off. And then you see Superman floating in the rubble
Hmm.
and she looks behind and she sees him. But that's like that's such a, to me, the opposite. It's the inverse
Yeah.
because it's
Right on.
like he's watching her to make sure she's okay.
Yeah.
And she's like in, gratitude driving away that he just saved me. But it's a similar thing where you have this, Superman floating above the earth, but he seems he's more vulnerable in this movie for
Yeah. No, I
sure.
totally see
He's
that.
more
Yeah.
empathetic in this movie,
Yeah.
and you don't get that vibe from Henry Cavill Superman at any point in any movie.
Right. Unfortunately, yeah, and that's totally true, and that's a really good direction to go in. If we're
Yeah,
doing a long game, let's trend in that direction because it is more about,
because
yeah,
Superman has to have like he needs to be the contrast. Like he works against Guy Gardner because Guy Gardner's the jerk. If
yeah,
you make Superman a similar jerk, there's no contrast. When Batman
yep.
eventually shows up and he can be dark and brooding, which I don't think the DC Batman will be the dark brooding. I think he's going to be like the Batman family Batman, where like he wants to be dark and brooding, but he surrounds himself with all these like colorful children
Okay, yeah, right.
who
Which
call him out on his bullshit.
that's a fun concept now that you put it that way. Yeah.
I hope that, I mean, they say that it's going to be Batman and Son,
Mm,
so it makes sense that like he's going to have multiple Robins at that point because Damien
Yeah.
is his like fifth Robin. It's kind of
Yeah.
I know we're running out of time, but like you told me to watch
Are-
Batman Ninja versus Yakuza League, and
I
like
love that movie. Go on.
that is the weirdest fucking thing I've ever seen. Maybe because
Well,
I never
weird
watched
is the
Batman
problem.
Ninja. That probably didn't help. And I also didn't watch it dubbed.
Hmm.
So everyone was speaking in Japanese. And I wasn't paying like close attention the entire time. So I probably missed some things.
Hmm.
But I mean it was
Well,
weird as shit.
that was weird as shit, but so was the 70s Silver Age Superman that we're
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah.
As a contrast of a weird thing, I loved Batman versus Yakuza League, Batman Ninja versus Yakuza League. I just loved all the uh, Japanese pop cultural redraws of
Right, right,
the
right.
of the Justice League
Justice
characters,
League.
and it was kind of like Ninja Scroll. Awesome. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. Um, but yeah,
Final
okay.
thoughts on Superman?
Okay, Lex calling out the number letter combinations all the time was just stupid. That was just like that was a thing that just didn't could have
Didn't
done
work.
something better.
Yeah.
But cool parts of this movie. Cool movie.
Well, what did you think? I mean, we didn't talk much about Nicholas Holt.
We
Did
didn't.
you think he was a good Lex?
That
Did
was
you think other than the calling out the combinations and
yeah.
shooting the brown guy in the face?
Well, the calling out the letter combinations was just I could have been something else. Um, I like that he articulated this thing that Lex is racist, and that's part of why he's such a bad guy. And again, back to the end when Superman is awkward on human speech, he also has a speech which is interesting. Like envy, what is it good for? Can it make
Mm.
human beings rise to some occasion, or is it really keeping them down? That's an interesting part of Lex's whole mindset. That I don't know. What did you think? Because
I
you
know
know,
I thought Holt was great. I mean, he's still not my like Michael Rosenbaum is still the best Lex Luthor. I do think
mm-hmm,
it's hard because this movie was like right at 2 hours. Lex Luthor's probably in it for probably the total of like 45 minutes, just
yeah,
total screen time. And then, Michael Rosenbaum was Lex Luthor for 7 seasons. So like
yeah,
he's had more time to add depth and story and background. So I'm always gonna have a soft spot for Rosenbaum. But I think cinematic Lex Luthor, Nicholas Holt,
yeah.
untouchable because no one in the movies got the opportunity to play comic book Lex Luthor. Hackman
Well,
in space, or at least the modern comics version of Lex, the billionaire genius,
yeah,
because Hackman in Spacey was playing a version of Hackman, and Hackman was very much like the. I mean, he was not even mad scientist version of Lex. He was just like the underground, obsessed with real estate,
yeah.
goofy
Well, I
criminal
don't
version
know.
of Lex.
Yeah, Mike mentioned that in his review, and this invites a larger question. But what do you want out of Lex Luthor? Because uh, okay, I'll just say,
Intense jealousy and hatred of Superman.
as a comics reader, I do not get Lex Luthor as a character.
Mm.
He's positioned as the bad guy. He has to be the bad guy. He occasionally does something to prove that he's bad. Um, but I'm saying like in Smallville, for example, Michael Rosenbaum was kind of
Yeah, he's not
sexy,
bad. He's not bad for
right? He's
most of
the
it.
I'm gonna say Lex in the live action versions is like the bad boy you like, right?
Mm.
Often, or Michael Rosenbaum was definitely that, right?
Yeah.
Complicated, kind of
No, no, not so sure about Jesse Eisenberg, but
Jesse Eisenberg, the sort of
Tech
weirdo,
Bro. Yeah.
but I still don't get him being, I still don't get the evil thing. I've never gotten that, and maybe that's why I don't enjoy Superman as much as other characters.
Well, I
Um,
think I've said this before. Like this movie does what I wanted the Man of Steel sequel to be,
mm-hmm,
and it was perfectly set up, right? Because Superman and Zod destroy Metropolis.
mm-hmm.
The sequel should have been Lex Luthor turns the world against Superman because look what he did to Metropolis.
Yeah, yeah.
And they
I'm
kind of
s-
go halfway there, but they just make it Bruce Wayne instead. Bruce Wayne
right.
wants to kill Superman for what he did to Metropolis. And my like, if I could go back in time and rewrite anything, it would be cast Ben Affleck as Lex Luthor and just make his whole thing. If you do that, Batman vs Superman is probably my favorite movie because now
Right.
it makes sense. Now it makes sense why the billionaire guy out to kill Superman, turn the world against Superman. He creates a kryptonite suit to kill Superman, and then there will be no save Martha thing to twist at the end.
Right.
If anything, Batman shows up at the end and defeats, Power Suit Lex Luthor after he tries to kill Martha.
Because remind me, Batman and Lex Luthor are different characters because I'm joking, but you know what I'm saying.
Because yeah, there should be no billionaires, no billionaire superheroes, no.
They're they're in real life there's the same guy.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
But
so
one's good
what's
and
evil
one's
about
bad.
Lex Luthor? He's a
One's good and
fucking
one's bad.
billionaire. That's what's evil about him. Anyway, that's it for Hard Knock Life. We're gonna
That's billionaire. That should be the next
take a
TV.
probably take another hiatus. Maybe come back for Fantastic Four. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, Fantastic Four. That's the other ball of wax.
Till then, what you got going on, Dom?
I'm Dama, and on the socials, DOMMAH. I'm still doing songs with 12 Valentines, which you can find the musics. Um, on the music places. I did want to say I saw this nice indie movie called Daniela Forever, and I'm going to write up a review of it on Nerds of Color, hopefully today. Because wait, well, it has Henry Golding in it, acting his ass off. Was Henry Golding ever in the Superman mix? Uh,
I wanted him to play Superman when Henry
you
got
have
dropped
said
out.
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I
He
thought he's named Henry. He's a handsome guy. Put on
yeah,
a couple pounds, he could look like Superman.
yeah, I don't know. I'll get into it in the review, but both it's my most I think Henry Golding's most impressive acting turn that I've ever seen. And I know we just started with this guy, but it really makes you think of him being Superman as well. Anyway, Daniela Forever on the nerdsofcolor.org pretty soon. And yourself, Keith?
I'm on social media as hashtag super shit, and you can follow the Nerds of Color at the Nerds of Color on all platforms. Check us out on YouTube, subscribe, leave a like, find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, everywhere you get podcasts. That's it for Hard Knock Life. Until next time.
The engineer was a near weird thing we didn't talk about.
Ah, maybe
She
we'll come back and do another Superman
We could
episode.
do a part two.
You should do a part
There
two.
was a lot to talk about. Thank you,
Maybe
James Gunn, for giving us a whole lot to talk about. We
maybe
cannot
we'll be
say
back. Maybe we won't. Who knows?
right, right. We cannot. Podcasts will have fodder for seasons and seasons.
Yes, sir.
In the lectures, fanboys, professional artists, and professors. Maybe a nerd who's just like you, talking about the things that you like too. So I invite you to the NOC. In full color, you see me. The Hard Knock Life. Comics, movies, and TV. Yeah. Pop culture with a different perspective. Watch it on your screen, hit play, so check this.